From Florida to Texas now, Governor Greg Abbott has a primary challenge. Outgoing Texas GOP Chairman Allen West announcing his primary campaign against Abbott. The retired Army Lieutenant Colonel telling the Texan in an interview, quote, "I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for Texas." And joining us now is Allen West. Still, I think the Texas GOP chairman for the time being, but stepping away from that. Also, of course, as we've indicated before, a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and the president and CEO of the Hope Center. Colonel West, great to see you as always.
It's good to be with you, John. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I've asked you about this a couple of times, and of course you were playing coy with me, but now it's official. Tell us what, forced your hand on this. Why are you running for governor of Texas?
Well, as I said, running for Texas, and one of the first trips that I took immediately after declaring was to go down to the Rio Grande Valley. I went down to the Roma sector, and at about 2 o'clock in the morning, we have a video of that. I sat and watched 80 individuals come across the Rio Grande River into the state of Texas, where a Border Patrol bus picked them up and took them who knows where to a detainment facility, and they'll probably be released into Texas or across the United States of America. And so we have a very porous border that is not even being secured whatsoever, and we showed that, articulated that, and to see 80, individuals come across was just shocking. It was just absolutely appalling for me. And not just that, but when you consider our election integrity, we got to strengthen that. Texas is the #1 state for human and sex trafficking. We need to do better with that. And when you look at our property taxes that continue to rise, this is crushing people. And the fact that you can never own your home in the state of Texas, that has to be something that we correct.
Wait, what do you mean by that? You can never own your home in the state of Texas?
Yeah, because of property taxes, which continue to. Yeah, so the government can come in and take away your home if you don't pay your property taxes. And we've seen an incredible increase because we have all these individuals coming in here from California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and they're able to pay cash for a lot of homes, and that just increases the valuation of the homes.
What has the response been, Colonel West, from other Republicans in Texas, challenging Greg Abbott here? They'd say, look, we have an incumbent governor. He's done a lot of things for this state. He's pretty conservative, all things considered. What has the response been after your announcement?
Well, the response has been very well. I mean, I'm on, I believe, number 8 of my media interviews for today. And I would not be doing this if there were not Texans that asked me to do this, because I'm in service to God, to country, and to Texas. But Governor Abbott, I'm not the only challenger in the primary. He has 2 other individuals, former State Senator Don Huffines and also a gentleman by the name of Chad Prather. So he's facing some serious challenges, and people still remember what happened last year with all of the mandates that Governor Abbott sent down and declaring certain businesses and people to be essential or not essential. That's not an enumerated power that any elected official has.
Now, whoever survives could have to face Matthew McConaughey, the actor. How do you like that prospect, Colonel West?
Well, I've been playing, a real-life part in my life. I've been in combat, and no one had to say, cut and stop and let's take another take. So it'll be interesting to see someone that has been playing make-believe for all of their lives to step in and try to be the governor of the state of Texas at such a critical time as now.
Right. I guess, if you can play an actor in a movie, you can govern a state. Matthew McConaughey seems to think so. He's popular with the kids, though, right? That's what matters. Let's talk a little bit more about. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the situation down there at the border. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is visiting Guatemala as Kamala Harris, the vice president, remains under fire for her handling of the border crisis. What is Mayorkas going to accomplish by going down to Guatemala? I mean, they go down there to talk about the root causes, but the crisis is where you were, in McAllen and other places in Texas.
No, absolutely right. And I would love to have the Homeland Security Secretary join me. I wish he had been there with me at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch what I saw. And then I would turn and ask him, why is it that people are allowed to come right into the United States of America, and why are they being transported on aircraft and buses and things of this nature and showing up all over the United States of America? In Tennessee, as we know, that we had some flights came in late at night in Tennessee. So I don't understand why they're going to all of these other countries talking about climate change and how much more money we need to give these governments. Many of these governments are corrupt. They're receiving foreign aid already from the United States of America. We need a full mobilization of our National Guard here. One of the things I think we should be doing is taxing the remittances of these illegal immigrants going back to these countries. That's how you create a border security fund. And also, we need to go ahead and declare these cartels as criminal and terrorist organizations. They're making $25 million a week here with what they're able to do in transporting people illegally into the United States of America, and mostly through Texas.
Yeah, and who knows what that real number actually is. Hard to count this. You're trying to extrapolate based on what they actually catch, but we know a much bigger percentage actually gets through. And talking about the need for the states to fill the void left open by the Biden administration, we're learning too that sheriffs in Texas are suing President Biden for limiting deportation. This is coming from Courthouse News, a Courthouse News Service is the name of the media organization here. They claim that the lawsuit focuses on the policy limiting ICE from taking most arrested immigrants into custody for deportation. They say this is, quote, allowing extremely dangerous illegal aliens to be released onto the streets of Texas. I mean, you got the sheriffs now suing in court because the Biden administration doesn't want to do their job.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And sheriffs are constitutional officers. And what you see happening is that Joe Biden and his administration are abdicating their constitutional duty and responsibility to protect the sovereignty of the state of Texas and putting an undue burden on these constitutional officers, these law enforcement officers at the sheriff's level. So they're absolutely right in suing this Biden administration, because what they're doing is implementing an open borders policy by executive action, by executive order. This has not been done through a legislative process. It's just Joe Biden signed a piece of paper saying that we're not going to deport any individuals. And so they are freely operating and staying in these stash houses that we have all across the state of Texas, to include one that was found in Houston where it had 90 illegal individuals in a stash house there in the city of Houston.
These are not humane conditions, to say the least, in these stash houses. They're atrocious, and a lot of folks want to shut them down, including Alan West. Good luck in the race for governor. Colonel West, always a pleasure.
Appreciate it, John. All the best.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.